I want you to try something with me. It's a visualization exercise, but it's auditory. I want you to imagine a metronome.
Okay.
You know the sound. That stark, mechanical, clicking, tick, tick, tick. Just, close your eyes and really hear it in the silence of your mind. It's steady, it's rhythmic, it's relentless. Now, what are you actually hearing? I mean, you aren't just hearing a mechanism, you're hearing the sound of your life.
Wow.
That is the soundtrack of a finite existence. Tick, you're born. Tick, you learn to walk. Tick, you go to school. Tick, you make a mistake.
Yeah.
Tick, you fall in love. Tick, you make a much bigger mistake. Tick, you get old. And then, nothing. Silence. The pendulum just stops moving.
That's a haunting image to start with. It really, really captures that sense of the transient hour that, the poets are always talking about.
A transient hour.
Yeah, we have this obsession with time precisely because we have so little of it. I mean, 70, 80, maybe 90 years if you have good genetics and, I don't know, eat your kale.
Right, if you do everything right.
But in the grand scheme of the cosmos, it is a blink. It's a microscopic blip on the radar. It's almost nothing.
Exactly. It's a blip. And that blip is where we run into what might be the most friction-inducing mathematical problem in the history of philosophy, theology, and frankly, human anxiety.
I think you're right.
It's the problem that has launched 1,000 debates and created more atheists than perhaps any other single logical hurdle. We are talking about the problem of hell.
The fiery question, as the source material for today calls it.
Right. And for this part, I want to play the empiricist. I really want to just look at the math, because the math on the surface seems completely broken.
It doesn't add up.
It doesn't. If I live for 70 years, tick, 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 and I commit crimes or sins or, whatever terminology you want to use for it, I'm doing those things within a closed system.
A finite system.
A completely finite system. I have a limited amount of time to be a jerk, a limited amount of time to be a criminal. My input, my data entry of bad deeds is finite by definition.
The input is capped. You can't commit infinite crimes in a finite lifespan. It's impossible.
It's just not possible.
Yeah.
The output, let's call it the traditional understanding of the punishment for that.
Infinite.
Infinite, eternal, unending. 1 billion years go by and you're just warming up. The metronome in my head doesn't just keep ticking, it speeds up faster and faster until it just explodes into static.
Right.
It creates a total logical crash.
Right.
Because human justice, the justice that I think is embedded in our DNA, the thing that makes us angry when we see unfairness, it whispers, the punishment must fit the fault.
Proportionality. It's the absolute bedrock of any kind of ethical reasoning we have.
Isn't it?
I mean, if a toddler breaks a vase, you don't lock them in a maximum security prison for 50 years.
Of course not.
If a teenager steals a car, you don't execute them. We feel that the reaction has to be calibrated to the action. If the scales are that unbalanced, it doesn't look like justice anymore.
It looks like something else.
It looks like sadism. It looks like cruelty for its own sake.
Precisely. And that is the Atheist Critique that our source material for today, Divine Justice and the Rationalist Reality of Hell, tackles head-on.
And it doesn't shy away from it.
Not at all. The source lays it out beautifully and brutally. It asks, if God is defined as boundless goodness and mercy, why on earth does this fiery, dreadful dream even exist?
Right.
If it is purely punitive, just punishment for the sake of hurting someone forever, then it feels like benevolence has completely faltered. It leaves what the source calls a bleeding mark on the very concept of God.
It paints the creator as, well, a tyrant, or at best, some kind of petty dictator with a really fragile ego.
Exactly.
And that is the tension the source really wants us to sit with for a moment. If you define justice by, human courtroom measures, and you look at that traditional, almost medieval picture of hell,
the pitchforks and the pointy tail,
the torture chamber, the pitchforks, the angry guards, all of it, it just doesn't add up. It breaks the equation. It actually makes the divine look less moral than the average human being.
So we're left with this empiricist's query, as the source puts it. Is it a vengeful furnace? Is it just a place where a deity takes out anger on these helpless little creatures? Or is it something else entirely?
Something else.
Because if our source material today is right, everything we think we know about this topic is basically based on a cartoon version of the text.
A very simplified and maybe even intentionally misleading version. Right. And that is where we need to change the backdrop. We have to do a hard reset on the visual. We need to stop thinking about a courtroom.
Okay.
I mean it. Get the image of a judge in a wig out of your head. Yeah. Stop thinking about a dungeon master. We need to shift our entire perspective to something colder, more detached, and infinitely more complex.
All right, set the scene for me. If we're not in courtroom, where are we? What's the new mental image?
I want you to imagine a massive server room, a data center.
Okay.
Think of just rows and rows of humming servers, blue lights blinking in the dark, miles of fiber optic cables snaking through the floor. The air is cool, it's almost sterile.
I can picture that.
And the sound. The sound isn't a scream, it's a low, sophisticated, rhythmic hum. This represents what the source calls sovereign intelligence. This is the rationalist reality.
I like that. We're moving from the dungeon to the data center. We are swapping the pitchfork for the processor.
Correct. The source argues that the error we all make isn't in the concept of justice itself, but in the definition of the punishment and, crucially, the mechanism of the universe.
The mechanism. Like how it works.
How it all works. And we need to introduce a new concept here, one that is absolutely central to the source's entire argument. The Law of Mukafat.
Mukafat. Okay, that's a new term for me and probably for a lot of people listening. Let's unpack that. It sounds heavy.
It is heavy. Linguistically, it translates to the law of requital. But for our server room analogy, I want you to think of it as simply cause and effect.
Cause and effect.
Or even better, physics.
Physics for the soul.
Exactly. Physics for the soul. The source argues that hell is not a sentence handed down by a judge who looks at you and decides, I don't like your face, so you go over there.
That's not what's happening.
It's not a choice. It's a law of physics. It's a structural reality of the cosmos. Think about gravity.
Okay, gravity. That's a constant. It's just there.
Right. If you step off a 10-story building, you fall. You will hit the ground. You might break every bone in your body. Now, when you're lying there in pain, do you blame gravity? Do you shake your fist at the sky and say, gravity is vengeful?
No.
Do you say, gravity is so cruel?
No, of course not. Gravity just, it's a mechanism. It's completely indifferent to my feelings about it.
Right. Gravity doesn't care if you're a saint or a sinner. It doesn't care if you stepped off that ledge to save a kitten or to escape a robbery. It operates on a principle. The source argues that moral deviations invite a bitter night in the exact same way.
So it's not a punishment, it's a consequence.
It is a structural reality of the universe. The universe has, let's call it, universal hardware. And our souls, we are the spiritual software.
I see where this is going. And if the software isn't compatible with the hardware?
Crash, friction, heat. The whole mission of this deep dive today is to explore hell, not as some medieval torture chamber designed by an angry god, but as a functional, necessary component of a rationalist reality.
A feature, not a bug.
In a way, yes. We're looking at what happens when corrupted software tries to run on a system designed for absolute truth.
So we're effectively debugging hell.
We are debugging hell. We are looking at the crash logs.
Let's get into the code then. Segment 1 of our source material is called the stagnation of potential, and it starts with the word itself, Jahannam. We hear this word all the time in, Islamic theology, but what does it actually mean? Where does it come from?
Words matter so much, especially in these ancient texts. We carry around these, like you said, cartoonish images of lava and demons, but the etymology, the root of the word, tells a much more grounded and in some ways a much more disturbing story.
Okay.
So the source digs right into the roots of Jahannam.
And what did it find?
Well, it connects it linguistically and historically to the Hebrew term Gehinnom.
Gehinnom.
The Valley of Hinnom. Now, this is crucial. Historically, this wasn't some mythological underworld. It wasn't a fairy tale location. It was a real place, a physical valley. You can go there today. It's right outside Jerusalem.
A real place on a map. Okay. And what was its significance? What happened there?
Originally, it was a place of, idolatrous sacrifice. The texts speak of the worship of Moloch. It was a place where people would literally burn their children as offerings to false gods.
That's incredibly dark.
It's a place of absolute horrific waste. Think about that. The potential of a child, the future of a life, just incinerated for the sake of a delusion.
It's a complete loss.
Later on, it became a municipal waste dump, a place where the city's trash was burned. So the metaphor starts right there. Jahan represents a state where humanity is sacrificed. But sacrificed to what?
To the ego, to false ideas.
Exactly. It's a state where human potential is incinerated on the altar of the self, of the ego. But the source goes even deeper. It highlights another key Quranic term that is often used for hell, but is very rarely analyzed. Jahim.
Jahim. Okay, sounds similar. What does that unlock for us?
The root of the word Jahim implies stopping, stalling, or refraining.
Stopping. That's almost anticlimactic. I was expecting burning or screaming or shredding. Stopping sounds like a traffic jam. It sounds so passive.
And that is precisely why this rationalist perspective is so fascinating. It reframes the horror. The horror isn't the heat, not initially. The horror is the stop.
The cessation of movement.
Yes. The source argues that life, what it calls the law of design, is built for continuous progression, evolution, growth, moving from one stage to the next.
Like a shark. You know, they say if a shark stops moving, it dies.
That's a perfect analogy. Or think of the universe itself. It's constantly expanding. Everything is in motion, from galaxies to atoms. The soul is designed to evolve, to learn, to expand, to connect, to move closer to the divine. When a soul stops developing, when it becomes what the Quran calls hasera,
Hasera.
which means confined or restricted, that state is hell.
So hell is being stuck.
It is the stoppage spot of evolution. Imagine you have a seed, an acorn. The entire design of that seed, its software, is to become a massive oak tree. It has the potential, the DNA, the instructions to become something grand and fruit-bearing.
Right.
But suppose you take that seed and you lock it in a lead box. You bury it in concrete. You completely stop its growth. You stifle its potential. That seed is in Jahim.
It's in stasis.
It's in a state of what the source calls functional verification, that it has wasted its potential. It remains a seed when it should have been a tree.
That's actually more terrifying than fire, in a way. The idea that I could just stall. That I could reach a point where I'm no longer becoming anything, I just am. And what I am is broken and incomplete. It's like being trapped in a glitched frame of a video game forever.
It is the ultimate tragedy of a wasted life. The source calls it the agony of a wasted life and a stunted soul. You are fully conscious of what you could have been while being permanently trapped in what you are. And this leads us to another paradox the source uncovers, the word mawa.
Mawa. I remember reading this part of the source and doing a complete double take. The source says the Quran calls hell a refuge, a sanctuary, an asylum.
It does. Mawa implies a place of resort, a shelter, a home.
How on earth can a place of punishment be a shelter? That sounds like calling a prison a holiday home. It feels like Orwellian doublespeak. You know, war is peace. Hell is a refuge.
It sounds that way, unless you view it through the lens of functionality and our data center analogy. Think about the word asylum. Historically, what was an asylum?
Well, historically, it was a place for people with mental illness, a place to keep them away from the rest of society, for everyone's safety.
Right. It wasn't primarily a prison in the punitive sense. It was a place of containment for those who could not function in the general upright system of society. It was a place where they were kept for their own safety and the safety of others.
So, hell is the only place a dysfunctional soul can exist.
That's the argument. Exactly. Imagine the heavenly state, or, the next stage of evolution, as a system running on pure high-voltage truth, absolute reality. No lies, no ego, no delusions. If a soul has spent its life rejecting that system, if it is running corrupted software that's just full of viruses and glitches, it cannot exist in that environment.
It would crash the system.
Yeah.
Or the voltage would just destroy it instantly.
Precisely. It would be like trying to run a virus-riddled Windows 95 program on a quantum supercomputer. It's completely incompatible. So the Mawa is the containment unit. It's the quarantine zone. The source calls it the sanctuary of friction.
A sanctuary of friction. That's a poetic but deeply disturbing phrase.
It's the only environment where that specific type of distorted energy can be held. It's not a trap set by a hunter. It's a quarantine zone mandated by the laws of the system itself. You aren't sent there because God hates you. You gravitate there because it is the only place your particular software can even run.
So we've got hell as a stoppage point, a quarantine, a state of stagnation. But the text doesn't just stop at these abstract concepts. It gets really visceral. It talks about sensory experiences. And this brings us to one of the most disturbing images in the source material. The boiling spring.
Segment 2, the sonic resonance.
Right. The source quotes these verses from the Quran. They will be given to drink from a boiling spring. No foods for them except from a poisonous, thorny plant.
Yes. Surah 88, verses 5 through 7.
It's visceral imagery. It's meant to be.
Absolutely.
And usually when you hear that, your mind immediately goes to physical torture. You think, okay, bad people are being forced to drink hot water and eat cacti. But the expert in our source, the rationalist perspective, says, wait, hang on, look closer, don't be so literal.
We have to move away from literalism if we want to get to the metaphysics here. I mean, if the soul is non-physical, if it's software or consciousness, then physical boiling water does really make sense.
Right, you can't scald an idea.
Exactly. You can't burn an emotion with a match. You can't torture a thought with a physical thorn. The tools don't match the medium.
So what is the boiling spring? If it's not H2O at 100 degrees Celsius, what is it?
The source describes it as sonic resonance.
Okay, you are definitely going to have to explain that one. Sonic resonance. We're talking about sound waves now.
In a metaphorical sense, yes. Think of the soul as a frequency, a vibration. Everything in the universe vibrates, from stars to the cells in our body. When a soul is aligned with the truth, with the law of design, it's in harmony. It resonates with the universe. It flows. It's like a chord resolving perfectly in a piece of music.
Harmony. Got it. Like a choir hitting the perfect note and the whole room just rings with it.
Perfect. But when a soul is in a state of kufr, which the source defines not just as disbelief, but as a denial or a cover-up of truth, it is vibrating out of sync. It is dissonant.
Like a screeching microphone feedback loop, that horrible high-pitched sound.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or like two metal gears grinding against each other because they aren't properly aligned. Now imagine that dissonance isn't just a sound you hear, it is a reality you have to consume. The boiling spring is the internal experience of that constant dissonance. It is the feeling of the soul vibrating against the fundamental frequency of the universe. The source says it represents spiritual barrenness.
So when the text says the food neither nourishes nor satisfies, it's talking about what exactly?
It's talking about the hunger of a spirit that is fed by rigid obsessions and false idols. Think about the modern world. This is where the analogy hits home for me. Think about the pursuit of material wealth as an end in itself.
Okay, consumerism, the grind, chasing the next big thing.
You consume it. You get the car, you get the house, the fame, the promotion. You eat the thorny plant. Does it nourish the deep part of you? Does it solve that existential ache we all feel?
No. Usually it just makes you feel emptier.
Yeah.
And then you want more. It's the hedonic treadmill. You run faster and faster and get nowhere.
Exactly. It creates a hunger that it cannot satisfy. That is the thorny plant. That is the boiling spring. It is not a punishment inflicted from the outside. It is the natural property of the food you chose to consume. You chose to feed your soul on things that cannot sustain it. The result is a perpetual burning hunger and thirst.
It's a sonic metaphor for a life that is fundamentally out of tune with reality.
And that dissonance, that vibration, that grinding of gears, well, what happens when things grind together? They generate heat. They generate friction, which brings us inevitably to the fire.
Segment 3, the physics of fiction. Because we really can't talk about hell without talking about the fire. This is the big one. This is the image that keeps kids awake at night. This is the furnace.
It is. It's the central image. But again, the source asks us to look at the specific Quranic description of it. It references chapter 104, verses 6 and 7. It describes a fire that originated in and engulfs the hearts.
Originated in the hearts. That is a crucial distinction, isn't it? Usually we think of fire as something you were thrown into, like a bonfire or a volcano. But this says it starts inside you.
Correct. It is internal combustion, not external incineration. The source even calls this chapter the shredder because it strips away all the illusions.
So what is the fuel for this internal fire? If I'm burning from the inside out, what is actually catching fire?
Friction.
Friction between what and what?
Between corrupted software and universal hardware. Between the ego and the truth.
Okay, let's break that down with a visual. I need an analogy here.
Imagine you have lived your entire life based on a fundamental lie. Let's say the lie is that you are the center of the universe. You believe your whims are the highest law. That is your software. You have spent decades programming your soul with this specific code.
Okay, I'm running MeOS, version 1.0. The only user is me.
You are running MeOS. But then, you die. The buffer of the physical world is removed. All the distractions, Netflix and food and sleep and work, they're all gone. You are now fully, nakedly exposed to the universal hardware, the absolute unyielding reality of God, the reality that truth is central, not you.
And my MeOS is completely incompatible with that hardware.
Totally incompatible. Think of a spacecraft re-entering the Earth's atmosphere.
Okay, re-entry?
The spacecraft is moving at an incredible speed, thousands of miles an hour. The atmosphere is, relatively speaking, stationary. When that ship hits the air, what happens?
It burns. The heat shield glows red hot. It becomes a fireball streaking across the sky.
Is the atmosphere angry at the spaceship? Is the air trying to punish the astronauts for leaving?
No, it's just resistance. It's physics. The object is moving against the medium at an impossible speed.
Exactly. The friction is unavoidable physics. Now apply that to the soul. When your lifetime of lies meets the absolute truth, the reaction is heat. The fire is the friction of your illusions being ground down against the unyielding reality of the cosmos. It's not God lighting a match. It is the physics of denial meeting the physics of truth.
That makes a strange kind of sense.
Mm-hmm.
It takes the sadistic punisher out of the equation.
Yeah.
But it's still pain. It's still suffering.
It is intense suffering, unimaginable probably, but here is the pivot. The source asks a critical question. Is this friction just to destroy, or does it have a purpose?
And this is where the therapeutic model comes into play. The source references Imam al-Ghazali, a huge figure in Islamic philosophy. He called hell a hospital for the spirit.
A hospital, it changes everything, doesn't it? If hell is a hospital, then the suffering isn't punitive, it's curative. It's what the source calls therapeutic agony.
Like setting a broken bone. It's excruciating, but you do it to heal.
Or cauterizing a wound. Or chemotherapy. Think about chemotherapy. We pump the body full of what is effectively poison. It makes you terribly sick. It makes your hair fall out. It feels like death. But why do we do it?
To kill the cancer, so the patient can live.
Exactly. The fire, the friction, is burning away. It's burning away the cancer of the ego. It is burning away the stagnation. Remember, hell is the stoppage point. The fire is the immense energy required to break that stasis.
It's the heat needed to melt something that has solidified.
It's the intense heat needed to melt down the rigid obsession so the soul can become fluid again, so it can finally evolve.
So it is a reaction, but a reaction with a teleological goal. The pain is the process of the lie dying, so the truth within the person can finally live.
It's a functional verification of a wasted life, yes, but it is also the mechanism of repair.
But let's not sugarcoat it. The repair process sounds absolutely horrific. And that brings us to segment 4, which is called the loop.
The loop.
There is a verse in the Quran, it's 4.56, that is arguably the most graphic, the most terrifying. I'm going to read it because we have to face it head on. Every time their skins are roasted through, we will replace them with other skins so they may taste the punishment.
It's the verse that scares people the most. I mean, it sounds like infinite conscious torture. Roast, heal, roast, heal. It sounds like something out of a horror movie.
It sounds like Prometheus having his liver eaten by the eagle every single day. How does the rationalist perspective, how does our data center view reconcile this with a merciful God? This sounds like pure, unadulterated torture.
By applying the rationalist lens to the metaphor of skins, the source argues this isn't physical skin, this is the psychological loop.
Okay, you have to explain that. What is a skin in this context?
What is a skin? It's our outer layer. In this context, the source suggests skin represents our outer behavior, our mindset. The interface we present to the world, it's the persona we build.
Okay, the mask we wear.
Roasting is the painful result of an error, the burn of reality. You make a mistake, you get burned. That is the roasting. Reality has delivered a painful, unavoidable consequence.
And the replacing, the new skin.
That is the tragedy of the unlearned lesson. The individual grows a new skin, a new excuse, a new loan, a new justification, only to repeat the exact same mistake. They are trapped in a self-perpetuating loop.
Can you give me an archetype? Who is this person in the real world?
The source gives 2 brilliant examples. First, the compulsive gambler.
Okay, the gambler. Walk me through his loop. What does that look like?
The gambler takes his family's savings, he bets it all, he loses everything. That is the burn. That is the skin roasting. Reality has delivered a painful, searing consequence. Now, a rational person, a healthy soul, would stop. They would learn. They would say, this is destructive. I shouldn't do this.
But the gambler doesn't.
The gambler grows a new skin. He says, no, I just had bad luck. The machine was rigged. Or, you know what? It's about to pay out. I can feel it. I'll just borrow more money. I'll win it all back.
He resets the cycle. He puts on a new mask of hope.
He resets the cycle. He borrows. He bets. He loses again. Roast. Replace. Roast. Replace. The punishment isn't the casino beating him up in a back alley. The punishment is the cycle itself. He is trapped in what the source calls Jahannami circular logic.
And the source also mentioned the dogmatic intellectual. How does that work?
The ideologue. The person who adheres to a flawed ideology, maybe a political theory or a social theory that consistently causes harm, the theory is put into practice. It fails. Society crumbles. People suffer. That is the burn.
The roasting of the skin.
But instead of saying, my theory was wrong, the evidence shows it doesn't work, they say, no, the theory was perfect. We just didn't apply it hard enough. The people weren't pure enough. We need to try again, only harder this time.
They grow a new skin of justification, a new excuse.
And they burn themselves and everyone around them again. This is the definition of hell in the source. A psychological hold, where cycles of error make the spirit cold and rigid. The verse isn't describing a sadistic God regenerating flesh just to hear you scream. It is describing the stubborn human ego regenerating its own excuses to avoid facing the truth.
That connects to another cryptic phrase from the texts. Hell's fire being fueled by people and stones.
Right. If the fire is friction, what keeps it burning? People and stones.
People, I get. We are the ones burning. We're the software that's crashing. But stones, what does that mean?
The source interprets stones not as literal rocks, but as rigid obsessions and unyielding attitudes.
Ah, a heart of stone, a stony-hearted person.
Exactly. These stones hold the soul fast. They prevent growth. If your mind is fossilized, if you are completely incapable of changing your mind, incapable of admitting error, incapable of empathy, then your rigid mind becomes the fuel for its own burning.
The friction comes from the resistance. Soft things, flexible things don't create much friction. But hard, stony things do.
Precisely. You are burning because you refuse to move. You refuse to evolve. You have become a stone.
This is all very compelling. It's a very coherent system. But we still have the elephant in the room. The infinite part of our title, the friction of the infinite. Even if it's a hospital, even if it is a self-imposed loop, does it last forever?
Right.
Because if it does, we are right back to the intro. We are back to the metronome and the static. 1 billion years for 70 years of mistakes. 1 billion years of chemotherapy sounds like a failed treatment, not a successful one.
This is segment 5, and it's called the teleological exception. And this is where the source really flips the script on the whole Atheist critique.
The teleological exception. Okay, that sounds like a legal clause, like a loophole.
In a way, it is. The source points out that the Quranic verses about people staying in hell often carry a specific, crucial clause, except as your Lord wills.
Except as your Lord wills. So it's not a locked door with the key thrown away.
It's not a final absolute statement. And another verse states, God is the accomplisher of what he plans. The source argues that this exception proves the duration is functional, not arbitrary. It's not a sentence, it's a process.
Functional how? What does that mean?
Let's go back to the hospital analogy. How long do you stay in the hospital?
As long as it takes to get better. A doctor doesn't sentence a patient to 10 years of chemotherapy. You prescribe the treatment until the disease is gone.
Exactly. The source argues that the confinement lasts exactly as long as the divine wisdom requires to break the stagnation. No more, no less.
So the duration is tied to the result, not to the initial crime.
Yes. And here's the kicker. The source brings up the verse that is central to the Islamic understanding of God. My mercy encompasses all things.
All things, not some things.
All things. If mercy encompasses all things, it must, by definition, eventually breach the walls of hell. It must eventually encompass the souls inside. For it to be all-encompassing, it cannot have a hell-shaped exception.
So there is an exit strategy.
The rationalist view argues yes, there has to be. Because if there wasn't, the divine plan would be a failure.
How so? A failure.
Well, if a soul remains broken forever, if it's permanently stuck in that loop, then the universal hardware failed to fix the spiritual software. And the source maintains that God is the accomplisher of what he plans. He doesn't plan for failure. He doesn't create a system that produces permanent scrap metal. The system is designed for reclamation.
So how does one get out? If I am the gambler, trapped in the loop, burning my skins over and over, how do I break the cycle?
Through what the source calls intellectual calibration.
Intellectual calibration. Okay, break that down for me.
It's a 3-step process laid out in the source.
Yeah.
Step 1, recognition of reality, simply opening the eyes.
The first step is admitting I have a problem.
It's admitting that the burn is real, admitting that the metronome has stopped, admitting that your MOS is crashing the system. The irrationality becomes an unbearable agony. You finally stop blaming the casino. You look at your own hands and say, I am the problem.
Okay, step 2.
Intellectual surrender. Now, this doesn't mean bowing down to a tyrant. It means stopping the fight against the law of design. It is admitting, my way doesn't work. The law of gravity, the law of Mukafat is real, and I need to stop trying to jump off cliffs and fly.
It's dropping the ego, finally letting go of that stone.
It is the death of the ego to make room for the truth.
And step 3.
Active resonance. It's aligning with the fitra, the soul's natural upright state. It is consciously tuning your frequency to match the universe's frequency. When the soul finally stops resisting the truth, the friction ceases.
And the fire goes out.
The fire goes out. Because the fire was only ever the friction of your resistance. No resistance, no friction, no heat.
This brings us all the way back to the justice argument. the proportionality problem we started with.
It answers it completely. The treatment matches the disease. If the disease is stubbornness, the treatment is the friction of that stubbornness. It lasts exactly as long as the stubbornness lasts. It's not infinite retribution for finite sins. It is necessary rehabilitation for a stalled evolution.
It's the hard reset for the corrupted software.
It is the hard reset.
So let's summarize this entire journey.
Yeah.
We started with a ticking metronome and a deep-seated fear of a sadist God. We look at the math finite input, infinite output,
Yeah.
and it just didn't add up.
We then move to the server room. We redefine hell not as a dungeon, but as a stoppage point, a stagnation of potential, a mawa, an asylum for the dysfunctional soul.
We looked at the boiling spring not as hot water, but as sonic resonance, the feeling of spiritual barrenness. We looked at the fire as the friction of the ego, rubbing up against absolute truth, like a spacecraft burning on re-entry.
We reinterpreted the skins not as flesh, but as the psychological loops of our own making, the excuses we regenerate to avoid learning our lesson, the gambler who won't quit.
And finally, we found the teleological exception, the exit strategy, the idea that this is ultimately a hospital, not a graveyard.
And this leads us to the ultimate conclusion of the Source, which is really a paradigm shift. The Source argues that hell, strangely enough, is actually proof of human significance.
Proof of significance. That's a bold take. I mean, usually hell makes people feel worthless, like they're just trash to be burned.
Think about it. If you are meaningless to God, if you are just a piece of cosmic dust, he would let you rot. He would let the stagnant soul just vanish. Delete the file. Why bother with the repair?
True. Indifference is the real opposite of love, not hate. If I don't care about something, I don't try to fix it, I just throw it away.
Exactly. The fact that the system goes to such incredible lengths, the roasting, the friction, the confinement, proves that the divine plan is too important to allow you to fail. The file is too valuable to be deleted. It must be debugged. It must be restored to its original state.
The hard love, fierce love.
It is the friction of the infinite. It is the universe refusing to let you be anything less than what you were designed to be, even if it has to drag you through fire to get you there.
That is heavy. And strangely, deeply hopeful.
It is. It really is.
Listen to that sound for a second. Can you hear that?
The parchment.
The sound of the soul's ledger. The record of our transient hour.
Every soul is a pledge for what it has earned.
We've talked a lot today about the afterlife, about the then and there, but the Law of Mukafat, cause and effect, it's active right now. The server room is running right now. The metronome is ticking right now.
So the question isn't just about what happens when you die. The question is for you, the listener, right here, right now.
Where in your life are you currently feeling the heat?
Where's the friction? Is it punishment? Or is it the friction of a truth you're trying to ignore? Is it the heat of a new skin you're trying to grow over a lesson you refuse to learn?
Are you in the loop? Are you the gambler, about to double down one more time?
Because the fire doesn't start later, it starts where the resistance starts. And the surrender. The cooling of that flame. That can start right now, too.
Something to think about while the metronome is still ticking.
Indeed.
Thanks for diving deep with us.
Until next time.
Keep listening.